Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. If not beautiful, must she be clever? When it comes to one of the most powerful, intelligent, and captivating women of ancient times, we cannot help but mention the Egyptian Queen Cleopatra. Known for her intelligence, vast knowledge, self-assurance, and exceptional leadership skills, Cleopatra became a symbol of beauty and strength for women, particularly due to her cunning and ability to charm. She captivated two of the most powerful and formidable men of her era. The influence of the Egyptian queen not only existed in the past, but even today, Cleopatra remains an abundant and endless source of inspiration for works of art, from literature to music and cinema. So, how did this woman use her talents, and what kind of life did she lead? Today, let us explore Queen Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, a woman whose influence was no less than that of great emperors. The Egyptian queen was not Egyptian. The Egyptian queen was not Egyptian. Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, whose full name was Cleopatra VII, was born in 69 BC and died in 30 BC, and she was Macedonian. She was the last member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek dynasty that ruled Egypt and neighboring regions from 305 BC to 30 BC. According to Macedonian history, Cleopatra was a descendant of the Ptolemaic dynasty, founded by Ptolemy I, a general of Alexander the Great. After Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC, Ptolemy first rose to power and established a Greek-speaking dynasty that lasted nearly 3 centuries. Although not ethnically Egyptian, Cleopatra adopted many ancient Egyptian customs and was the first member of the Ptolemaic dynasty to learn the Egyptian language. The Ptolemaic dynasty considered consanguineous marriages to be entirely normal. Ptolemy XII married his sister and gave birth to Cleopatra. Following family tradition, Cleopatra married 2 of her brothers. When her father, Ptolemy XII, died in 51 BC, Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII jointly ruled the country. At that time, Cleopatra was only 17 years old. She ruled ancient Egypt from 51 BC to 30 BC. Despite not being Egyptian, Cleopatra was regarded by her subjects as a divine figure. Perhaps because of her Ptolemaic origins, people often jokingly say that Cleopatra was an Egyptian queen, but not truly Egyptian, killing her siblings to monopolize power. According to the traditions of the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra's family, queens were not allowed to rule alone but could only co-rule with a man and play a subordinate role to the male. That is why, when her father passed away, Cleopatra ascended the throne at the age of 18, sharing the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He was also her first husband. Not long after their marriage, Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII had disagreements. A bloody civil war broke out, taking place in Egypt in 49 BC. Ptolemy XIII overthrew Cleopatra, forcing the queen to flee to Syria. Cleopatra spent a year there organizing her own army and returned to Egypt. With the help of Julius Caesar, the Roman general whom she seduced, Cleopatra was restored to the throne after Ptolemy XIII was killed. In official documents, only the name of the queen remained. Even the coins bearing the images of pharaohs featured only Cleopatra's portrait. After the death of King Ptolemy XIII, to legitimately ascend the throne, she had to marry another of her brothers, Ptolemy XIV, to co-rule. On the surface, the two ruled together, but in reality, power was concentrated in Cleopatra's hands. However, just like Ptolemy XIII, Ptolemy XIV was also killed by Cleopatra to absolutely secure her power. In 44 BC, Khazarian, the son of Cleopatra, and Julius Caesar became her co-ruler after Pharaoh Ptolemy XIV's death. Not only did she eliminate her 2 brothers, but Cleopatra also viewed her sister Arsinoe as a rival to the throne. Therefore, in 41 BC, Cleopatra had her assassinated on the steps of a temple in Rome. Cleopatra did not possess a beauty that could topple kingdoms. Cleopatra is world famous for her contributions to the Egyptian empire and is considered one of the most powerful queens in recorded human history. However, the truth may not be so. Evidence of her ordinary beauty is shown through ancient Egyptian coins, where the queen's face was depicted as rough, with a square jaw, a hooked nose, and an expression that was not particularly pleasing. It is believed that Cleopatra worked hard to control how the public perceived her, and her image on Egyptian coins was a way to appear more masculine, emphasizing her power and authority. The historian Plutarch once wrote, "Cleopatra possessed an ordinary beauty, and her appearance was not so remarkable as to be incomparable." However, he also added that instead of an unremarkable beauty, Cleopatra possessed extraordinary intelligence, wit, charm, and sweetness in her voice, qualities that could enchant others more powerfully than external beauty. It can be seen that most of the negative reputation regarding her seduction and physical allure was fabricated by her enemies. Even Roman historians described Cleopatra as a harlot who used sex to seduce powerful men, granting her power. Extremely intelligent and sharp-witted. Despite the Romans portraying Cleopatra as a licentious, depraved woman who often used her beauty as a political weapon, she was likely more renowned for her superior intellect than her appearance. Cleopatra was fluent in 8 languages, studied mathematics, philosophy, oratory, and astronomy. She was described by the Egyptian populace as a ruler who knew how to elevate and value scholars. Historian Alberto Angela said that Cleopatra loved Homer and could recite large portions of his works by heart. Every corner of the library was familiar to Cleopatra. Scholars and librarians might have known her well, and sometimes forgot they were in the presence of a queen. Historians note that Cleopatra received a higher education than most women of her time from a young age. This made her more independent and strong, despite the criticism she faced for being a woman. Cleopatra continued to demonstrate significant actions in her leadership role. With her sharp intelligence, Cleopatra became one of the most respected and admired leaders in world history. During her reign, Cleopatra displayed sophisticated communication skills and exceptional diplomatic abilities. Over time, her talents earned her the respect of the people in the Egyptian Empire for her immense contributions to the nation's development. The populace also regarded Cleopatra as one of Egypt's most successful queens. Besides her political talents, Cleopatra was also an outstanding scholar. Many historians have pointed out that she had a sharp mind and could discuss philosophical ideas. They also considered Cleopatra a talented chemist who established a perfume factory to support her political advancements. Not only philosophy, but Cleopatra also studied mathematics and astronomy. Some documents describe her as a leader who valued ranks and the roles of other scholars of her time. Due to Cleopatra's intelligence, many senior scholars often enjoyed spending time discussing with her. It can be seen that, although she may not have possessed a beauty that could topple kingdoms, we cannot deny the brilliance of the mind that this Egyptian queen possessed. Whom did Cleopatra truly love? Cleopatra also held a secret wedding with Julius Caesar according to Egyptian rituals. This marriage was not recognized in Rome because Caesar was a married man and violated the law by marrying a foreign woman. Not long after, Caesar returned to Rome. Cleopatra's seat of power was not as secure as she thought and was forced to rely on the Roman Empire. A year after giving birth to Caesarion, the son of Caesar and herself, the queen took her son away from Egypt and arrived in Rome. There she was deeply loved by Caesar, who even built a statue of her at the Temple of Venus Genitrix, despite opposition from his subjects. However, happiness did not last long, as Caesar was assassinated. Cleopatra failed in her attempt to make Caesarion the Roman emperor, and the mother and son returned to Egypt. It can be seen that the relationship between Cleopatra and Caesar was entirely based on personal and self-serving factors, with no love involved. Not long after the death of the Roman emperor, Queen Cleopatra fell in love with Mark Antony, a Roman general, and publicly announced their relationship. Having long been infatuated with the beautiful queen, After the emperor's death, Antony did everything to win her over. He invited Cleopatra to Tarsus to negotiate the provision of military funds previously promised by the Roman Emperor Caesar. The meeting took place on a magnificent ship with lavish feasts and countless beautiful women surrounding them. Of course, among them was the woman he had longed for. Cleopatra's beauty, sharp intelligence, and sweet voice completely conquered Antony, leading him to abandon his wife to follow the call of his heart and move to live in Alexandria, the queen's residence. From then on, the talented general and the powerful Egyptian queen spent happy days together. Cleopatra not only made Antony infatuated, but also made him more resolute. They ruled a mighty kingdom together without letting love overshadow their responsibilities. However, this peaceful period did not last long. Octavia, the sister of Octavian, Antony's former wife, was determined to destroy their strong relationship. On one hand, she incited anger among the Romans against Antony's behavior. On the other, she persuaded the Senate to oppose Egypt. War broke out between the two kingdoms, and Cleopatra could not withstand the fierce attacks from Rome. As for Antony, he decided to abandon his position in Rome to be with the queen. According to many recorded documents, Cleopatra inadvertently led Antony to his death when she wanted to test his loyalty. After the Egyptian army was defeated, she had her forces inform Antony that she had died. Heartbroken, Antony immediately took his own life by stabbing himself in the stomach. From then until her death, Queen Cleopatra was filled with remorse and guilt over her lover's death. Some theories suggest she lived in torment and committed suicide a week later, while others propose that Cleopatra was poisoned. Nevertheless, the love story of Cleopatra and Mark Antony touched many hearts, even impressing Augustus, the one who instigated the war to break their relationship. Later, he had the tombs of the Queen and Mark Antony built side by side, so they could be together forever. Cleopatra always knew how to use tricks to achieve her desires. Believing herself to be a living deity, Cleopatra frequently used her clever acting skills to woo potential allies and solidify her divine status. A notable example of this talent was in 48 BC, when Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria, precisely at the height of the bitter feud between her and her brother Ptolemy XIII. Knowing that meeting the Roman general would be obstructed by Ptolemy's forces, Cleopatra had herself wrapped in a carpet. Some sources say she was wrapped in a linen sack and secretly delivered to Caesar. He was stunned by the sight of a young, beautiful queen, and the two quickly became allies and lovers. Cleopatra later used this tactic again when meeting Mark Antony. It is said that when summoned to meet this Roman triumvir in Tarsus, she arrived on a golden barge adorned with purple sails and silver oars. She was dressed to resemble the river goddess Aphrodite, sitting under a gilded canopy, while her slaves fanned her and were dressed as love deities. When Antony, who believed himself to be the embodiment of the Egyptian god Dionysus, saw her, he was immediately enchanted. Cleopatra lived in Rome at the time of Caesar's assassination. In 44 BC, Cleopatra's presence in Rome met with considerable opposition. Caesar did not hesitate to publicly declare her as his lover, and when she arrived in Rome, Cleopatra even brought her beloved son on a chariot. When Caesar erected a statue of Cleopatra at the Temple of Venus Genitrix, many Roman citizens protested. After Caesar's assassination at the Senate in 44 BC, Cleopatra was forced to leave Rome, but she managed to leave her mark on the city. Her distinctive hairstyle and pearl jewelry became a fashion trend there, and according to historians, many Roman women imitated Cleopatra's style to the point that their families were often mistaken for the queen. Cleopatra's death may not have been due to a snakebite. Cleopatra and Antony ended their lives in 30 BC after being driven out of Alexandria by Octavian's army. While Antony is believed to have stabbed himself in the stomach, the manner of Cleopatra's suicide remains a matter of debate. Folklore claims she died from the bite of a venomous snake, likely a viper or an Egyptian cobra, on her hand. However, the ancient chronicler Plutarch insisted that no one truly knows what happened. He suggested that Cleopatra might have drunk poison hidden in her comb. Historian Dio wrote that the queen might have used a lethal ointment. Many modern scholars suspect she used a needle coated with a highly toxic substance, possibly snake venom, or something similar. Cleopatra may have been buried with Mark Antony. According to historical records, before her death, Cleopatra visited Antony's tomb and wept, saying, "Since you passed away, my life has lost all meaning." But in reality, it seems this was not the case, as in truth, she had no love for General Antony, nor any affection for the Roman Emperor Caesar. Her attachment to these two men was ultimately aimed at preserving peace for Egypt. The greatest love of her life, according to the judgment of Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass, was Egypt. After her death, Cleopatra was buried with Antony by Augustus. He also noted that, through Roman literary works, it can be seen that Antony had wished to be buried in Egypt after his death. Meanwhile, Cleopatra, during her lifetime, had a double tomb constructed. When the two passed away, Augustus, Antony's cousin, helped fulfill his wish. Conclusion. The above are some facts you may not know about the ancient Egyptian queen. Although many aspects of Queen Cleopatra remain unclear, we cannot deny that, even though she passed away over 2,000 years ago, she remains one of the most fascinating women in history, renowned for her beauty and intellect. The Egyptian queen has become an inspiration for many women in their journey of building, developing, and strengthening their positions. Through this, it has also helped them become more confident and steadfast in life.